What happens when you wake up one Tuesday morning and realize that the dream retirement everyone talks about has turned into your worst nightmare? I'm Mary, and I want to share Robert's story with you because it might sound painfully familiar. Picture a 62-year-old man from Phoenix who thought he had everything figured out until life taught him that the hardest battles sometimes come after you think the war is over. Robert Williams had worked 30 years for a federal agency, building what seemed like a solid retirement plan. When early retirement packages came along during budget cuts, he jumped at the chance. Finally, time to enjoy life. But nobody warned him about the deafening silence that would fill his days, or how quickly loneliness could consume everything he'd worked for. His house on Cedar Street had once buzzed with family chaos. His wife Sarah, son Michael in Seattle, daughter Jennifer in Denver, they'd created a warm, noisy home full of love and laughter. But life moved forward as it always does. The kids grew up and scattered, building their own lives across the country. Then Sarah's cancer diagnosis arrived like a thief in the night, stealing not just her health but Robert's sense of security. After 18 brutal months, she was gone, leaving Robert alone in a house that felt like a tomb of memories. I need to pause here and connect with you watching. If this story is hitting close to home, I'd love to hear from you. Drop your name and city in the comments below, maybe you rewatching from Austin, Charlotte, or somewhere in California. Your experiences matter to me. The night everything changed started ordinarily enough. Robert was staring at the TV when his phone rang. Michael's voice carried that familiar, rushed tone of someone juggling too many responsibilities. "Hey Dad, Katie and I were planning to visit this weekend, but this work crisis just exploded. I'm really sorry, but we can't make it." Robert felt his chest tighten but forced understanding into his voice. "Don't worry, son. I completely understand." But after hanging up, he sat in that silent house, feeling like the world was moving forward without him. His neighbor, Walter Chen, knocked the next morning with a concerned expression that older men recognize in each other. "You were rattling around here all alone, aren't you?" Walter asked gently, over coffee. The conversation that followed changed Robert's perspective forever. Walter, a widower himself, spoke truths that cut deep. "We need to plan for what's coming. What happens when you can T-drive, when you fall and nobody hears you call for help?" Those words haunted Robert for days. When Jennifer made a brief visit, bringing his granddaughter, he'd prepared her favorite childhood dishes, hoping for meaningful time together. Instead, she apologized repeatedly about work chaos and soccer practice, staying barely 15 minutes before rushing off again. Standing at the window watching them disappear, Robert felt profound emptiness settle in his chest. Walter suggested walks in Riverside Park where they discussed survival strategies for aging alone. First priority. Finances, Walter emphasized. Make sure you can handle medical emergencies, home modifications, maybe long-term care. Nothing makes loneliness worse than being broke and lonely. Robert spent days analyzing his government pension and savings. Decent but not luxurious, one major health crisis could devastate everything he'd built. Second, Walter continued, you can't count on your kids being available. They love you, but geography and responsibilities make them unreliable safety nets. This truth stung because it was absolutely accurate. Even if Michael or Jennifer wanted to drop everything for him, expecting that level of sacrifice was unrealistic. Most importantly, Walter added, stay active and connected. Isolation kills faster than any disease. Robert realized he'd been gradually withdrawing since retirement, spending days watching TV and wandering his empty house. He started morning walks to Riverside Park, evening chess games at the community center. Slowly, he discovered others navigating similar challenges, but despite these positive changes, nighttime brought fears about serious illness or injury. Who would care for him? The idea of finding companionship felt like betraying Sarah's memory, but crushing loneliness was becoming unbearable. Walter listened without judgment as Robert shared these conflicted feelings. There's nothing wrong with wanting connection at our age, Walter said wisely. We were talking about sharing these years with someone who understands facing the unknown together. Fate intervened at a community center potluck. Robert met Dorothy Martinez, a vibrant, 60-year-old widow whose children had scattered nationwide pursuing careers. Her infectious laugh and life energy reminded him that joy was still possible. They exchanged numbers and within weeks were talking daily. Their conversations evolved into grocery trips, cooking experiments, morning neighborhood walks. Dorothy brought light back to Robert's home in ways he thought impossible after Sarah's death. Gradually, she spent more time there, their relationship blossoming into something beautiful, not youthful passion, but deeper, more practical partnership. When severe flu struck Robert, Dorothy became devoted caregiver, monitoring medications, maintaining hydration, even calling Michael when Robert's fever spiked dangerously. Arrived concerned but grateful, realizing his father had found precious companionship with someone who cared about his daily welfare without obligation. Their quiet bond strengthened daily. It wasn't fiery youth romance, but warm, reliable presence. Chasing away loneliness shadows, Robert felt genuinely peaceful about his future for the first time since Sarah's death. Then life delivered its next cruel twist. Dorothy's phone rang with news that shattered their contentment. Her son James in North Carolina was getting married, desperately hoping she could help plan and attend this milestone moment. Robert watched internal struggle play across Dorothy's face, torn between her son's needs and leaving Robert alone again. "I've gotten so used to this life we've built," Dorothy said through tears. "I'm not sure I'll be helpful, but I should be there for James." Robert forced a smile despite his breaking heart. "This is wonderful news. Family is everything. Of course you should go." It was a lie they both recognized. Inside, Robert felt like drowning. After tasting partnership again, he faced returning to complete solitude. Days later, Robert drove Dorothy to the bus station, watching her board with a stone lodged in his chest. When the bus disappeared down the highway, he stood motionless, unable to move, watching his second chance at happiness vanish. Home felt emptier than ever. Robert attempted returning to old routines, visiting neighbors, community center activities, calling his children. But Dorothy's warmth was gone, replaced by deeper loneliness than before. Michael and Jennifer called more frequently, hearing depression in their father's voice. Distance prevented physical presence, and Robert couldn't expect them abandoning responsibilities for his care. Overhearing assisted living discussions at the community center, Robert considered this option seriously. These facilities provided medical oversight, social activities, peer companionship, exactly what isolated seniors needed. During his next call with Michael, Robert broached the subject carefully. "Dad, are you really considering a nursing home?" "Won't that be depressing?" Michael asked with obvious concern. Robert sighed deeply. "Son, it's not about depression. I need a stable environment where I won't fear being alone during emergencies. You and Jennifer can always be available, and I can't spend remaining years terrified of medical crises with nobody around helping." Dectri promised except be per des sports per the stees. After hesitation, Michael promised discussing it with Jennifer. Within days, both children visited, wanting to understand their father's decision better. Emily looked worried, asking, "Dad, we understand living alone is difficult, but are you certain assisted living is necessary?" Robert explained patiently. "I've considered this carefully. I need interaction with people in similar situations. I appreciate your concern, but can't constantly depend on you both. You have jobs, children, your own lives." His children exchanged glances and nodded understandingly. Michael finally said, "We support whatever you think best, Dad." "We shall visit often." Shortly afterward, Robert moved into Sunset Gardens assisted living community in the suburbs. Beautiful gardens, comfortable common areas, friendly residents became his new neighbors. First day, resident Frank Patterson took him under his wing, providing tours and introducing fellow chess enthusiasts. That first night in his new room, Robert gazed at moonlit landscape, feeling relief wash over him. Unfamiliar surroundings, but he wasn't alone. Staff provided care while new friendships promised companionship and support. Following 6 months passed in gradual adjustment. Regular dining hall meals, morning Tai Chi classes, resumed board games with new friends became daily rhythm. Michael and Jennifer visited regularly, sometimes bringing grandchildren. Robert assured them he was doing well and honestly began feeling satisfaction with his new life. But one afternoon, enjoying courtyard sunshine, Robert's phone rang with devastating news. Michael's anguished voice delivered crushing blow. Dad, Dorothy, was in a car accident. She's in ICU and doctors say it's really serious. Robert's heart raced violently, nearly dropping the phone. Are you sure? Where is she now? Michael named the hospital, offering immediate pickup. Hospital drive passed in disbelief haze. Robert's mind flashed to Dorothy's departure day, her bravery, their promises, staying connected. He never imagined it ending like this. In waiting room, Michael and Jennifer looked stricken. Dad, doctors are still working. Prognosis, is it good? Michael said quietly. Robert stared at operating room's red light heart, pounding audibly. He prayed silently, hoping Dorothy's strength would survive this nightmare. Minutes crawled agonizingly until exhausted surgeon emerged. They rushed toward him, Robert whispering, "How is she?" Doctor shook his head gravely, explaining severe injuries complicated by Dorothy's age during surgery and recovery. "I'm sorry," he said gently, "but prepare for the worst." Robert's legs nearly buckled. Michael helped him sit as his mind refused accepting reality. When doors opened, wheeling Dorothy out on gurney, Robert's world stopped. She lay motionless under oxygen mask, pale as snow. Tears sprang to his eyes, hurrying to her side. "Dorothy, it is me, Robert. Can you hear me?" She weakly opened eyes, breathing shallow and labored. Robert took her cold, fragile hand. "Hold on, sweetheart. Remember discussing spending golden years together? You can leave me now." Single tear rolled down her cheek. Her lips moved soundlessly. Robert understood. She recognized him. Throat lump made breathing difficult as he silently begged her staying. Even Michael and Jennifer stood nearby with tears, knowing words were useless. Late that night, Dorothy's condition deteriorated rapidly. Doctor confirmed her time was ending. Robert couldn't leave her bedside, terrified of missing final moments. Dorothy, sensing his presence, weakly lifted her hand into his palm. Robert gripped tightly as tears streamed down his face, falling onto her wrist. With tremendous effort, she whispered barely audibly, "Robert, live well." Her hand went limp, eyes closing forever. Robert cried out, begging her return, but only heard monotonous monitor sounds displaying flat lines. Emotional pain was unbearable, like his world collapsing. In Liu Shar years, Robert experienced many losses, but this felt especially cruel. Dorothy had been his last defense against loneliness, and now she was gone, days following blurred into endless grief stream. Robert returned to Sunset Gardens, everything seeming gray and lifeless. New friends Michael and Jennifer tried comforting him, visiting more often, bringing grandchildren, hoping to lift spirits. Robert appreciated kindness, but internal numbness wouldn't he lift. Sleepless nights brought Dorothy memories of voice, smile, house movements, gentle forehead touches when he was sick. Now everything existed only in memory. One morning, Robert noticed a new resident, elderly gentleman looking confused, lost, deeply sad. He reminded Robert of himself during initial facility days. Robert approached, patted his shoulder, offering, "Hey, want to walk courtyard with me?" Gentleman nodded silently, seeming grateful for attention. They walked comfortably silent, sharing unspoken understanding that aging can be lonely. Losing loved ones devastating, but sometimes gentle friend presence lightens burdens. That evening, returning to his room, settling for night, Dorothy's image filled thoughts again. But Robert noticed internal shift. Grief and sorrow still tore at his heart, but alongside them grew tender gratitude for beautiful shared moments. Though physical presence was gone, her warmth and boundless compassion had permanently resided in his heart. Daily, determination strengthened to live worthily in her memory. Before you continue watching, I want to connect with those of you who might be facing similar decisions. Whether you re in Orlando, Denver, or somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, please share your name and city in the comments. These stories matter, and your experiences might help someone else watching today. One morning, gathering strength, Robert stepped outside, turning his face toward gentle rising sun rays. Dorothy's words echoed in memory, how important cherishing every connection, treasuring each day, recognizing life as fleeting nurture. People leave this world, but their influence remains, shaping how we perceive our future. Robert understood that aging is just loss series. It's also profound realization period. Recognition that every life relationship, whether family bonds, friendships, or late life romances, must be treasured and nurtured while we still have them. Time moves relentlessly, but that doesn't mean we can't find ways, filling our lives with meaning and gratitude. You know what nobody discusses in retirement seminars? How aging happens in unexpected jumps rather than gradual slides. One morning, you open your eyes, realizing an entire year flew by unnoticed. Looking back, youth slipped away like smoke. People start addressing you with respectful terms, and suddenly you realize there's no more clinging to fading youth illusions. Parents who were once strength and support become frail or pass away. You see your own reflection trying to accept the inevitable. You're re-aging too. That S, when you understand every word S value. Speech becomes more measured, not from lagging thoughts, but from realizing how few people truly listen and understand. Life's journey brings setbacks once seeming unthinkable. Health problems announce themselves, financial difficulties leave marks, and children absorbed in own lives don't always find visiting time. You discover that despite wide acquaintance circles, genuine understanding and sympathy aren't as common as hoped. Yet in night silence, alone with thoughts, you can feel strange harmony with yourself. If you've managed accepting yourself as you are, you finally realize your worth doesn't depend on others' approval. You understand that humility, not pride, is peace of mind is key. Life transforms love perception too. In youth, hearts burn with faith in all-consuming eternal passion. But maturity brings understanding that not all love stories are written forever. Relationships, FaceTimes, test people change, and you change too. Memories gain value, shaping personality. Life's disappointments, inevitable journey companions, settle in memory, but alongside them accumulate unexpected joy moments. Years bring freedom from excessive expectations, saving from unnecessary disappointments. Someone might call this cynicism, but it's really wisdom, ability, seeing world balanced between hopes and reality. Maturity's main revelation, recognizing the only person always there is yourself. Ability to endure, survive pain, and heal, that strength nobody can take away. So, if old age catches you alone, remember preparation importance. Create solid financial foundation, maintaining independence. Nourish soul with friendship, hobbies, perhaps new acquaintances, bringing light to life, even briefly. Everyone's life includes periods when sincere care and support value becomes especially acute. Surround yourself with people ready offering help and understanding, whether within specialized facility walls like assisted living or among family and close friends. There's no universal happy aging recipe, but there's a path allowing dignity maintenance, comfort, and companionship during final years. When grief time comes and departed memories, remember that love and shared moments remain forever in heart. These precious memories are priceless treasures nobody can steal. Seep. Robert S. Transformation teaches us that preparing for aging alone isn't T.up. Giving up hope is taking future control with wisdom and grace. Whether building financial security, maintaining social connections, or making difficult decisions like moving to assisted living, the key is making choices preserving dignity and well-being. Financial planning isn't just about money, it's maintaining independence and options when bodies start failing. Social connections aren't luxuries, they're real lifelines keeping us mentally sharp and emotionally resilient. Sometimes, like Robert discovered with Dorothy, life offers unexpected gifts even in later years. The companionship he found wasn't replacing what he'd lost with Sarah, it was embracing different love kinds. Built on shared understanding of life's fragility and time's precious nature. The hardest part was his Dorothy's deaths, devastating as it was. It was learning that resilience at Luxor looks different than at Senshar Quitter, more deliberate, happening in small moments like comforting confused residents or choosing to feel sunlight despite grief. Robert's assisted living decision was his defeat. It was strategic choice, providing care access, community, and peace of mind. His children could visit without constant worry about isolation and vulnerability. He could make new friends understanding exactly what he experienced because they lived it too. Community center activities, morning walks, chess games weren't just time-passing methods. They were Robert's mental health investments, social connections, and purpose sense. Even after Dorothy's death, these connections provided healing foundation. What strikes me most about Robert's story is how he learned holding multiple truths simultaneously. He could grieve Dorothy deeply while appreciating joy she brought. He could miss Sarah terribly while remaining open to new love. He could acknowledge loneliness while taking concrete, addressing steps. This is emotional maturity in later years, not difficult feelings absence, but wisdom navigating them without destruction. Robert's tears weren't a weakness signs. They proved his heart remained open despite multiple losses. For family members watching, Robert's story offers important lessons. Michael and Jennifer's guilt about unavailability was understandable but ultimately unhelpful. What mattered more was supporting their father's decisions, even when admitting they couldn't provide everything needed. Sometimes the most loving thing adult children can do is help parents build support systems not entirely depending on family. This might mean researching assisted living facilities, helping with financial planning, or simply listening without judgment when parents express aging fears. Robert's transformation from isolation to community didn't happen overnight and was without setbacks. Losing Dorothy could have sent him spiraling back into despair. Instead, he used grief as bridge, understanding others going through similar struggles. The new resident he comforted wasn't just receiving kindness, he was giving Robert purpose sense, helping him heal. This is perhaps Robert's journey's most profound lesson. Our pain, when ready, can become wisdom and compassion sources for others. Loneliness that once threatened destroying him became the very thing helping him connect with people needing exactly what he could offer, understanding born from experience. Aging alone doesn't have to mean aging lonely. It requires planning, courage, and sometimes making difficult decisions younger versions never imagined. But with right preparation and mindset, these can be years of unexpected growth, new relationships, and profound peace. Robert learned that home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's people caring whether you take medication, noticing sadness, and celebrating small victories. Whether family, friends, or care community staff and residents, what matters is building connections sustaining us through life's inevitable challenges. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones because that's where our true wealth lies.